In this video today, the American people continue to reject the Democrat Party as new polling shows overwhelming support for President Trump. Also, Face the Nation host Margaret Brennan, she gets embarrassed by Marco Rubio, and more stories in this video. But let's first see Hakeem Jeffries react to this new poll.
But Donald Trump's favorability rating is actually higher than it ever was the first time around. Let me ask you, a recent poll by Marquette looked at several of the things that he has done or says that he is going to do, and 63% favor federal government's recognition of only two sexes, 60% favor deporting immigrants who entered the United States illegally, 60% favor expanding oil and gas production, 59% favor declaring an emergency at the southern border. Is there anything you are seeing that Trump is doing that you are in favor of, that you think is the right thing?
Let me say, as it relates to all of those issues, we're just at the beginning. And the core promise that Donald Trump made is that he's going to lower costs for everyday Americans. In fact, we were told that grocery prices would go down on day one, on January 20th. Costs aren't lower. In fact, costs are increasing. The price of eggs is skyrocketing out of control. Inflation is on the way up. That was the core promise that's been broken. With respect to immigration, listen, we have to secure the border. We have a broken immigration system, and we need to fix it in a comprehensive and bipartisan way.
Okay, so there's a difference between what Democrats want you to believe in regards to what President Trump said and then what he actually said. And what he actually said is that he would immediately begin taking actions to lower prices on day one of his presidency. He didn't say grocery prices would come down on day one. That's the first thing. Secondly, the border is secure. We're seeing record low crossings, never seen in history. And remember, these are the same individuals that said the border was secure. But once they realized that the election was based on immigration, they started to switch up their tune. So no, he's false on that, of course. And finally, he said we're just at the beginning. So if we're just at the beginning, why are you guys losing it? I just don't understand. Now, he also did an interview where he's continuing to push this rhetoric that I don't believe really resonates with the American people. Listen.
This administration is making America weaker across the world and creating the space for people like China and Russia to step in while hurting everyday Americans. Captain Chaos and the extreme MAGA Republicans spent last year promising to lower the high cost of living and running away from Project 2025 as if it didn't exist. They've spent this year implementing the most extreme parts of the Project 2025 agenda, which will hurt the American people, while doing nothing, not a single thing, not a single bill, not a single idea, not a single plan to lower the high cost of living. In fact, the cost of groceries is going up, not down, including but not limited to the price of eggs. We've got to hold the Republicans accountable, and we will, for the lies and the broken promises that they've told to the American people.
All right, so again, I like to show you guys both sides, okay? And this is what the left is running with, okay? They believe that everything Trump said is a lie, even though we're only, 20-something days in. He has not lowered prices, so that means he's broken his promise. Okay, you let me know the last president that was able to lower prices within 21 days of taking office. I'll wait. And here's the other thing. They keep, the price of groceries are going up. They've been going up. They were going up before he took office. Now, let's hear from the president himself. Here he is speaking to the press right after he attended Daytona 500, and he's talking about inflation.
Remember, I've been here for 3 weeks. And when you saw the inflation numbers, I've been here for 3 weeks. I have had nothing to do with inflation. This was caused by Biden. I had 4 years of virtually no inflation. So I'm just taking over. But I'll tell you what, this country has made more progress in the last 3 weeks than it's made in the last 4 years. And we're respected again as a country. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, so let's just be fair and exercise common sense. It's more likely that where prices are today, they will stay there. Now, there are some areas where that's not the case. Gas and electricity will come down, and I really do believe Trump will make that happen. Now, later down the road, you could see interest rates finally drop. Okay. But all in all, if you look at it broadly speaking here, corporations aren't going to lower their prices when there's no inflation because there's no incentive to. This is why it's very important for Trump to expand energy, to deregulate. Why? So that wages could go up, growth can occur in our economy, and the dollar can go farther. If that happens, combined with low gas and electricity, that makes a huge difference for everyone. But the breaking point for Americans was not grocery prices. It was grocery plus interest rates plus insurance plus gas plus electricity. When all of that is high, that's just too much.
What's going on, right, as you know, is that there is an inflation problem that's very large. We saw the consumer price index come out, and we found out that the stagflation that was created by the policies of President Biden was way worse than we thought. Over the last 3 months across all goods, including eggs, the average inflation rate was 4.6%, way above target, and an acceleration at the end of the Biden term. And, you know, this is really not just us. You could go look at Jason Furman, Larry Summers, economic advisors of President Biden kept saying, don't do this. You're going to cause massive inflation. In fact, Jason Furman has a very thought-provoking piece in Foreign Affairs right now calling the Biden economic record a tragedy. And this is them, not us, right? And so now we've got a lot of things that we're doing to get a hold of it.
There.
Excuse me?
You were talking about fiscal spending there.
Well, where does inflation come from, right? And so what we're doing now is we've got really a multifaceted plan to end inflation. And I'll go quickly because I want to end with what we're doing with egg prices. But we're going to have a macroeconomic change that has supply-side tax cuts so we have more supply. And we're going to reduce government spending, both through what DOGE is doing and through congressional action. And so therefore, the macroeconomic forces that Jason Furman said were a tragedy are going to be reversed. That's a good thing. Then we're also going to have a lot of energy production, a lot of deregulation.
All right, well, I just want to add a point to what he said here is results will tell the story. When we get to the midterms, we're going to know how the American people feel about what Trump has done. Has it been favorable for the American people or not? Ultimately, they will decide on the results and what the story truly is. And right now, we don't have an answer to that. What we do have an answer for is that Trump has done everything he could to start off his presidency in the right way. And in fact, he's done it in a way that we've never seen before, and he should be applauded for that. Now, this leads me to the next story, and something that President Trump should be applauded for is J.D. Vance, the person that he picked to be the vice president. Now, he's been getting a lot of backlash from our allies and adversaries in regards to his speech at the Munich Security Conference, where he called out world leaders to their faces in regards to free speech, because we know they don't believe in it, and they're not a great example of democracy. Well, Face the Nation CBS host Margaret Brennan confronted Marco Rubio on this, and of course, he gave her a reality check.
Why would our allies or anybody be irritated by free speech and by someone giving their opinion? We are, after all, democracies. The Munich Security Conference is largely a conference of democracies in which one of the things that we cherish and value is the ability to speak freely and provide your opinions. And so I think if anyone's angry about his words, they don't have to agree with him, but to be angry about it, I think actually makes his point. I thought it was actually a pretty historic speech, whether you agree with him or not. I think the valid points he's making to Europe is we are concerned that the true values that we share, the values that bind us together with Europe, are things like free speech and democracy and our shared history in winning 2 world wars and defeating Soviet communism and the like. These are the values that we shared in common. And in that Cold War, we fought against things like censorship and oppression and so forth. And when you see backsliding and you raise that, that's a very valid concern. We can't tell them how to run their countries. He simply expressed in a speech his view of it, which a lot of people frankly share. And I thought he said a lot of things in that speech that needed to be said. And honestly, I don't know why anybody would be upset about it. People are allowed, you don't have to agree with someone's speech. I happen to agree with a lot of what he said, but you don't have to agree with someone's speech to at least appreciate the fact they have a right to say it, and then you should listen to it and see whether those criticisms are valid. I assure you, the United States has come under withering criticism on many occasions from many leaders in Europe, and we don't go around throwing temper tantrums about it.
All right, so I'm not going to add anything to what he said because it's just plain old common sense. Now, what I am going to do is prepare you for this next clip because she just shows you how ignorant she really is. And it's really sad to say something like that for someone who's worked at that network for so long, because what she starts to suggest as a response to what Marco Rubio said is that, well, he's saying all this in a country that, committed genocide against Jews because they had free speech. So I guess she failed, but she was trying to connect and blame free speech for why Nazi Germany was able to do what they were able to do. Listen to it for yourself.
Well, he was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide. And he met with the head of a political party that has far-right views and some historic ties to extreme groups. The context of that was changing the tone of it. And you know that the censorship
I have to disagree with
was
you.
specifically about the right.
No, I have to disagree with you. Free speech was not used to conduct a genocide. The genocide was conducted by an authoritarian Nazi regime that happened to also be genocidal because they hated Jews and they hated minorities and they hated those that they had a list of people they hated, but primarily the Jews. There was no free speech in Nazi Germany. There was none. There was also no opposition in Nazi Germany. They were a sole and only party that governed that country. So that's not an accurate reflection of history.
That was a false statement. I mean, the only way Nazi Germany was able to get away with what they were able to get away with at that time was because they were able to censor free speech, right? The people who lived within Germany was not allowed to consume any information outside of that country. To all accounts, that's authoritarianism. There would be no free speech in that type of atmosphere. But again, she's supposed to be the history buff. She's supposed to be the expert here. She's been in politics. This is her career. I would have expected more from her in that situation. But again, they fail every time at this because they're too emotionally triggered by President Trump. And once you have Trump derangement syndrome, your ability to think for yourself goes out the window, especially during a debate. And that's exactly what you just witnessed here.
I also think it's wrong. Again, I go back to the point of his speech. Okay, the point of his speech was basically that there is an erosion in free speech and intolerance for opposing points of view within Europe, and that's of concern because that is eroding. That's not an erosion of your military capabilities. That's not an erosion of your economic standing. That's an erosion of the actual values that bind us together in this transatlantic union that everybody talks about. And I think allies and friends and partners that have worked together now for 80 years should be able to speak frankly to one another in open forums without being offended, insulted, or upset.
Now, listening to this back and forth reminded me of a post that I saw earlier this morning on X. The person put up, white supremacy is the biggest threat to the United States. Clearly, we know it's not. What is a bigger threat to the United States, probably the biggest, is censoring free speech. If we don't have free speech, we don't have anything. And that's what people have to finally accept, especially these people who are on the left, who seem to have these progressive ideals that are very destructive to the world. And again, history has shown us does not work. Now, speaking of progressives, AOC, as we know, she was hosting webinars teaching illegal aliens on how to evade being deported by ICE agents. And of course, Tom Homan, he's continuing to make his rounds on the media and remind people what AOC did. And of course, Dana Bash confronted him on it. And here's what he had to say.
Let me just, to be fair, she said that
public safety threats being escaping.
She said that she is just offering civil education and that you might be, quote, vaguely familiar with the U.S. immigration law, but that she's just doing what she needs to do to remind people the law of the land passed by congressional statute.
Vaguely aware of immigration law. I've done this since 1984. I forgot more about the immigration law than AOC will ever know. Matter of fact, the hearing a couple years ago, I had explained to her that entering the country illegally was actually a crime. So, you know, I'm not going to play that game with her. I simply made a statement. When you sit down with people who are wanted by us, criminal aliens that have been ordered to be deported from the United States government and ignore that order, if you and I ignored that order, we'd be sitting in prison. But they ignored an order from a federal judge. They're hiding in a home, and she's telling them not to open the door. Now, I'm not saying that's illegal. What I'm saying is, I asked the Attorney General, at what point is it impeding and what point is it not impeding? So I'm simply, as a board is asking the Office of the Attorney General, where does it draw the line? So we make sure we give ICE agents the proper standard when they go to these homes. They don't open the door. At what point can you open the door? At what point can't you open the door?
In other words, by AOC hosting webinars and teaching these illegal aliens on how to evade being deported from ICE agents, what she's really doing is allowing the illegal aliens who are criminals and who have committed crimes, who have already been given orders to be deported, to hide. And they're also being educated on how to hide, all in the name of their rights. And of course, American people don't want to hear about rights when your first act when you entered this country was illegal.
So we just want to be sure that ICE officers are doing the right thing. So this is about talking to Attorney General, because every Attorney General interprets things different. What is your interpretation of impeding? Where's that line at? I think it's a responsible thing to do as the borders are of the United States, to make sure the men and women of ICE understand what they can and can't do.
Yeah, and of course, right now, being undocumented is a civil offense and not a criminal one, unless you commit those crimes. Thank you so much, Tom Homan, for being here. Appreciate your time.
Got it.
Okay, so that last comment from Dana Bash sums up what's wrong with individuals on the left, especially the Democrat Party. That's why most Americans just don't resonate with them, because the clips, the sound bites, continues to show that Democrats are defending illegal aliens. They are defending illegal migration. They are not defending people like Lincoln Riley. And that's why they will continue to lose on this issue. And the other reason why I say that, and you guys hear me repeat this all the time, the results tell the story. If you just look at the numbers, there's no comparison. What President Trump has been able to achieve on the border, we've never seen that. Listen to this.
Look what this president's done in just the first month of him being in office. Illegal crossings on the border are down 90%. 90% in just a matter of a couple of weeks. And what does that mean, Maria? It means less people are dying crossing the border. Less Americans are dying from fentanyl overdoses. Less women and children being sex trafficked across that border. Less terrorists are getting in. President Trump has taken incredible action on the border. We're already at a high state of security on the southern border. We're arresting twice as many illegal alien criminals that Biden did. We're on a lightning speed to do what the president promised the American people he would do.
Now, this takes us to the next story, because President Trump made a lot of promises. He's keeping those promises, of course. And one of those promises, I believe, has completely destroyed whatever was left of the Democrat Party after this election. And we're talking about DOGE, cutting wasteful spending, creating an efficient government that works for the people. Sounds very noble, probably one of the hardest things that he could accomplish during his presidency, given all the pushback at this point. Now, the good news is the pushback that DOGE is receiving is not actually rooted in a mindset that most Americans will relate to, because currently what they are doing is trying to push the idea that DOGE is trying to cut black people from the federal workforce. It's not about DEI. It's about going after black people. Let me show you that clip.
Washington Post story from the opening, if you will, the one about DOGE and their three-part plan. This isn't about waste and fraud.
No, it's never
this
been
is
about
a DEI part. Like what? And then what are they saying when they say DEI? What are they talking about? They're saying black people, everybody who's not white, brown people, Asian American Pacific Islander.
Because they have tried to say that this is about you have institutions of higher learning that have lots of money. They don't need this. And there's the reality that smaller institutions, including institutions that have served black and brown students, do not have the funding to do that research. And so that is where it becomes, if they want to be just subtle enough to slip under the wire.
When DEI works for them, they celebrate. They win. When it doesn't work for them, it kills their party. That's exactly what we're seeing unfold every single day. And at this point, when their only response is, well, it's not really DEI, it's that Trump and Elon, they want to go after black people. What information do you have to truly support that? I mean, none whatsoever. That is a projection. That is an insecurity that we are seeing unfold on live TV. It's just ridiculous. It's not Trump's fault that you guys put these minorities in those positions, in a position that really is not essential for the government to be efficient for the American people. That's not Trump's fault. That's your fault, because you guys promoted this ideology. Now, as a result, because we know they are demoralized at this point because of everything that is happening, they're left with one question. What can they do about it?
What would you have us do?
I would actually, you know what? I'd just like you to show that you give a damn, that you got a little emotion about the fact that people are losing their jobs indiscriminately, that this individual sitting down the 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue has given absolute power to one man who brings his son into the Oval Office, whose son says to him, "You're not the president. You shouldn't be in that chair." Now, where did he get that from? He got it from his daddy, because that's what his daddy thinks is the man who brought him into the Oval Office. So I just like to see somebody wake the hell up and get excited about the fact that your country is under assault. They're not at the gate anymore. They're in your bedrooms. They're in your living rooms. They're in your businesses. They got your data, dumbass. They got all your stuff.
All right, so my only question is, where was that level of outrage after Edward Snowden exposed what the government was doing as it pertains to data and surveilling American citizens? Was he that outraged then and up to this point, or is it because Elon Musk is involved? Again, this is why nobody trusts the media, because they pick and choose. That's the first thing. Secondly, show me the video clip where Elon Musk said those exact words. Those exact words verbatim, show it to me. If you can't show it, why would you make that statement on live TV? I just don't understand that. Now, he wasn't the only one who had a meltdown over Elon Musk and Doge over this weekend. Here is Senator Tim Kaine.
Versus outrage about some of the stuff that they're uncovering.
Yeah, I think my outrage is about who they're hurting. I don't care about the bromance. Who cares about the bromance? I don't like letting unelected officials, post. Yesterday, the Doge guys post classified information on their website, and they had to realize, we didn't realize that agency was a classified agency. You shouldn't let people run rampage through offices that have classified information. And again, I view this in Virginia from the perspective of we're a veteran-heavy state. There's a war on veterans. When they're slashing in the VA, and when 30% of the federal workforce is veterans, compared to like 2 to 3% of the civilian workforce, you do indiscriminate cuts. I'll tell you, it hurts. It hurts veterans.
All right, so clearly that was a blatant lie. Again, this is what they love to do. They will say something very confidently in a way to scare you and get you emotionally triggered. But if you do the research, you will find that what he said was just straight up false. Now, Doge did not post classified information. He wants you to believe that. In fact, what they did is post public information that is reported by OBM. Now, of course, we have the receipts to show you what he was referencing, which is the National Reconnaissance Office, which they will report publicly how many people work for that office. According to Tim Kaine, this is classified information. If it is classified information, why is it on the OPM's website or database? Okay, I just don't see why that makes sense, why that is an argument he wanted to make. But actually, I do know why, because they have nothing. Okay, so answer this question in the comment section below. What is your direct reaction to Margaret Brennan? She's the host of Face the Nation, where she claims that it was free speech that allowed Nazi Germany to commit a genocide. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are about all of that in the comment section below. Now, Elon Musk clearly at this point has broken the Democrat Party and whatever's left of it, because yesterday we did a video where they lost in court to Elon Musk. Doge can now access 3 more government systems that they were trying to prevent them from accessing. If you missed out on that story and the details, you're going to want to take a look at it yourself. All you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.